Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. War. We're still in the basic math section of the GED test where you cannot use a calculator. We're going to be looking at the standard that is called Q2A, where you have to perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division on rational numbers. And when they say rational numbers, they're talking about whole numbers, decimals, fractions, and your integers. In this standard, they say that, students should be able to multiply and divide with decimals. You should also be able to compute with fractions, using order of operations, mixed numbers, and with negative numbers. So I am not actually going to create any videos. I'm going to link in the description playlist because this channel was created for task math and I've done these videos before. So if you're not proficient in this area, you're going to see that I have a playlist called Basic Skills. I'm going to link it in the description. And in here, you're going to see addition and subtraction of decimals, multiplication and division of decimals. We also have our fractions, addition and subtraction when the denominators are the same, addition and subtraction when the denominators are different, multiplication and division of fractions, and then I threw in the multiplication table. This list has 7 videos in the basic skills, and then I have an integer playlist where you're going to see videos on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers. And then notice on the 4th video, it's order of operations. So this is where you have Pemdas. And for the task test, it only focused on your integers. However, for the GED, they're using Pemdas with your integers, with your fractions, and with your decimals. So they say this is and let me highlight it. It says this is a wide range of granular skills. Example, multiplying integers, adding fractions, and not every individual skill is assessed on every form of the GED exam. So you don't know what you may get. Like someone might, go take their GED test and all they get was multiply decimals. And that person is pretty lucky. But then you might get someone who gets an order of operation that has decimals, fractions, and negative numbers. So you have to be proficient in this area. So in today's lesson, I'm assuming that you are proficient in your computation with rational numbers. And I'm just going to be showing you some strategies of how to choose the correct answer because your test is timed and you don't have to go all the way to the end to figure out what your answer is. So the first one says, and let me get my pen. Okay, so the first one says, what is the value of the expression? And you have 521.6 divided by 4 squared. So if you think about PEMDAS, which is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which says parentheses, exponents, and always remember it is multiply or divide from left to right and add or subtract from left to right, whoever comes first. So I don't have any parentheses, but I do have exponents. So 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. I'm taking 521.6 and divide it by 16. So I'm on the test and I'm like, okay, I'm dividing. So I, take a glance at my answer choices. And if you're dividing, you ask yourself, will your answer get bigger or smaller? Well, if you're dividing, your answer should get smaller. So it can't be D. But then you're dividing by 16. So you're like, well, I don't think 130.4 would be a valuable answer either way. So my answer is either A or B. And I'm going to use the answers to help me. So if I'm going to be dividing 521.6 by 16, I'm going to be using that as a hint. So I'm going to take my 16 and times it by 3. That's 18. That's 3 and 1 is 4, 48. If you don't trust that, take 16, times it by 6. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus 3 is 9. I have 52 here, so I'm like, oh, 48 is, the better choice. And I'm going to subtract. So there's my 3. Notice I'm putting my 3 right here under the 2 and the 8. When I subtract, 8 from 12 is 4. bring down the 1. Now this decimal point goes up right here, and I have to go 16 into 41, but notice I get a 3. So A has an answer of 32.6 and B has an answer of 65.2. Now because I get a 3, my answer is A. But there's some people who, don't trust that. So if you keep going, you got your 3, you got your 41. Now, 41 is less than 48, so 2 will be the next best choice. 2 times 16 is 32. We're going to subtract, so you're going to have to borrow. And that's 11. So 2 from 11 is 9. Bring down the 6. And then notice we had 96 over here, and 16 goes into 96 6 times. So your answer is indeed 32.6, but you didn't have to go through all of that. Remember, your test is time. You can figure out your answer. What does the expression, so we have 0.5 times 6 times 4.5 plus 10.5 squared plus 6 squared. So I have multiplication, addition, and then I see exponents. So we know exponents are first. Now 10.5 squared, we're going to have to multiply that. So notice here I'm multiplying decimals. When you're multiplying decimals, forget their decimals. So I'm thinking of this as 105 times 105. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 0 is 0 plus 2 is 2. And 5 times 1 is 5. Now times in by the 0, that's in the tens place. So my answer starts here. So you're going to have a 0 here as a place value. And 0 times anything is 0. So there are 3 terms here. So I'm going to assume 3 zeros. And then lastly, the 1 here is in the hundreds place. So that's where my 1 times 5 will be. 1 times 5 is 5. I'm going to fill these by zeros. And then because I'm times it by 1, it's going to be 105. So when we add, we get 5. This is 2, that's 10. That's a 1 and a 1. Now, how many decimal places do you have? 2. So your answer is 110. So right here, 110.25. And I know 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. So I did my exponents. So next, I have my multiplication. Now with the multiplication, you're multiplying 3 terms. So what I would do is multiply these 2 first. So I have 0.5 times 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3. 6 times 0 is 0 plus 3 is 3. How many decimal places do I have? 1. So that would be 3.0 times 4.5. And we still have to end up adding 110.25 plus 36. So the 3.0, I'm now going to times that by 4.5. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 3 is 15. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 3 is 12. 0, 5, 3, 1. And how many decimal places do I have? 1, 2. So that's going to be 13.50, which I'm adding to 110.25 plus 36. So to add decimals, we line up by the decimal point. So suppose I'm using my 1350. My 110.25 is here. And then 36 is a whole number, so I think of $36. And then I begin to add. Now you can see from here, from adding all these big numbers, my answer is not A. So here's 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. So I have a 0.75, okay. 6 plus 3 is 9. So let's see who has a 9. Okay, so my answer is C. If you want to keep going, 3, 4, 5, and 1. Now this one looks like really delicious. And it says, what is the value of the expression shown below? So I have a negative, and I have -4 times -6, subtract 3/5. And then in the parentheses, I have 10 plus 15, and then you're dividing by 1/3. So let's first figure out what's the numerator. Let's just get one number as a numerator if we can, or it might be a fraction. So I have negative 4, negative 6, minus 3 over 5, and then 10 plus 15. Now we have, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So parentheses first, which means we got to take care of the 10 plus the 15. And if you add that, you get 25. Can we multiply or divide from left to right? Well, yeah, we can multiply. So if we multiply, now I notice I have 3 negatives. 1, 2, 3. If you have an odd number of negatives, your answer will be negative, and then 4 times 6 is 24. Take away, now here you're multiplying, so I'm going to make this 25 a fraction, and when you're multiplying fractions, you go straight across. So 3 times 25 is 75 over 5 times 1 is 5. Now I know that 75 can be divided by 5 evenly, so if you go on the side and take 75 and divide it by 5, I'm going to get 1. And bring down the 5, and 5 goes into 25 5 times. So that's 15. So this is actually negative 24, take away 15. Now we're subtracting integers, and the rule says keep the first, change the subtraction sign to an addition, and change your second integer to the opposite. And if the signs are the same, you're going to add and keep the sign of the larger. So this would give me 39. So I get negative 39. Now remember, you're not finished. This is negative 39 divided by 1/3. But this looks really confusing to students. So we're going to write this like a proper division. So this is negative 39 divided by 1/3. So if you watch my video, you're going to see that when I have to divide fractions, I do this thing called the butterfly method. So this, because this is first, no, I'm going diagonally, I'm going to multiply. So a negative times a positive is a negative. And 39 times 3. 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 3 is 9. Plus 2 is 11. Over. And then this would give you your denominator. 1 times 1 is 1. So your answer is negative 117. So your answer is A. This was really long, but one of the things that I want you to remember is you're only going to get one of these questions, so you could really devote your time to them. Here it says, what is the value? And I'm going to change to blue. So you have 3 over 7 times 0.1 divided by 5 over 21. So I have multiplication and division. Again, with PEMDAS, because it's only multiplication division, you do whichever comes first. However, when you look at your answers, they're all fractions. So this 0.1 we need to change to a fraction. And that is pretty simple. So the 1 here is my numerator. So that's 1 over. And then I put a 1 here. And because I only have one digit after the decimal point, that is 1/10. Suppose I had 0.009. And I need to change that to a fraction. The 9 is the numerator. I put a 1. I look to see how many digits are after the decimal point, which is 3. So that represents 3 zeros. So that's actually 9 over 1,000. So this is 1/10, and you're dividing by 5 over 21. If you would like a video of how to change decimals to fractions, please let me know in the comments. If you're multiplying, you go straight across. So 3 times 1 is 3 over 7 times 10 is 70. And we're dividing by 5 over 21. So if you do that butterfly method I showed you just now, this is going to multiply. So we have 3 times 21, that's 63 over. And then the 5 and the 70 would multiply, and that's a pretty easy multiplication. That's 350. And you don't see that there, but you can go to your answer choices. You see 18 over 1, That's not your answer because that's 18. Your answer is a fraction. So 63 and 350, what would divide these evenly? And the answer is 7. This is why you need your times table. And 63 divided by 7 is 9. So 9 is in the numerator. So your answer is not A. And then 350 divided by 7 would be 50. Your answer is B. Last but not least, it says here, what is the value of the expression? And we have 26.95 divided by -5.5. Now, when I look at my answers, they're all decimals. So I'm going to have to change this 5.5 mixed number to a decimal, and that's pretty easy. So that will be 26.95 divided by -5.5. I know that a positive divided by a negative is a negative, so I know my answer will be a negative. And remember, a half is 0.5. So when I go on the side, I have 26.95, and then I have my 5.5. Now, before I can divide, I need to make this a whole number. So I'm moving the decimal one place to make it 55. And then I have to move this one place to make it 269.5. And then my decimal comes up. So again, going to use these answers to help me. Now I notice this starts with a 0, this has 4, 3, and 5. Now I know my answer is not F because 55 can't go into 269. So let's see if 4 is a good choice. So if I take 55 and times it by 4, 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 5 is 20 plus 2 is 22. So you're like, 220. 55 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 5 is 25 plus 2 is 27. So the 4 is the better choice. So here's your 4. And then you have your 220. And you go to subtract. But I'm going to go to my answer choices. Do I see a 4 point? Yes, I do. And it's G. If you want to continue, you can. So if you subtract, you get 9. You get 4. Bring down the 5. 495. 55 goes into that. You can try 9. 55 times 9. That's 45. 45. 6, 7, 8, 9. And there you go. 4.9, but we didn't need to go all that way. Once I got the 4 point, I knew my answer was G. Last one, what is the value of the expression? And you have 6 3/4 multiplied -11.5. So when I look at my answers, I notice that all my answers are fractions. So this decimal, I'm going to have to change to a fraction. So this will be 6 3/4 and multiplying by -11.5. So 0.5 I can write as a half. So I actually changed this decimal to a mixed fraction. Now there are certain things you can do to kind of guesstimate your answer. Positive times a negative is a negative. So I know that my answer is going to be a negative. F and G are out. Here you have mixed numbers, and if you want to multiply mixed numbers, your first step is you have to change them to improper fractions. And in order to do that, the whole number multiplies the denominator and then you add the numerator. So you're doing 6 times 4 plus 3, and all of that is staying over your denominator 4. Well, over here, I'm not going to use the negative. I know my answer is going to be negative, so forget that. So I'm going to be doing 11 times 2, and then I'm going to add 1, and then that's going to be all over 2. So 6 times 4 is 24, and if you add 3, that's 27 over 4. That you're multiplying. 11 times 2 is 22, plus 1 is 23 over 2. So if we go straight across, and this might help you. So the denominator is the easiest one. 4 times 2 is 8. Now the top part, you're going to have to do some work. 27 times 23. That's 21. That's 6 plus 2 is 8. 2, that's 14. 4 and 1 is 5. 1, 2, 6. So that's 621 over 8. Now, if I'm on the test, I see that denominator as an 8. I'm like, I think my answer is H. But we now have to change this improper fraction to a mixed number. And in order to do that, you're going to divide. 8 goes into 62 how many times? Now, that would be 7. Because I know 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 7 would be 56. You subtract, you're going to have to borrow, so that's a 5. That's 12. So that's 6 and 1. 8 goes into 61. Guess what? 7 times. That gives you 56. And if you subtract, now you don't even have to do the subtractions like 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61. That is a 5. So this is actually going to be 77 and 5 over 8. Now again, we didn't have to go through all of that because when the denominator was 8, you were just looking for the one with the denominator is 8. So your answer is H. I hope you found this lesson very helpful. It might be difficult for those of you who computation skills with rational numbers are not up to par. So I would suggest that you practice your mostly multiplication, division of decimals, and you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing of fractions. This is not like the task test where we didn't have to really focus on your fractions. But again, this is just one question, and if you don't get it right on the GED test, it is not going to kill you. Pick and choose your battles. And also you have to know your order of operations. So as I said before, I'm going to link those playlists, so take a look at them. This is a very hard pill to swallow for Q2A. If it was helpful to you, please like. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe. As always, please share with anyone who is trying to get their GED test. And if there's something that you would like a video, or you need an answer to something, please comment below. And as always, good luck on your GED test. And thank you for supporting the channel. Have a great day.